make decisions for themselves. I think that we all should have health insurance, but I think that it should be bought in a competitive marketplace, that we should be able to buy health insurance across state lines. I guess I'm probably going to go against a lot of people that would be in my own party to say that you have to have insurance for pre-existing conditions. I mean, I'm somebody who had my house burned down. I paid a lot of insurance over all of those years before my house burned down. If I could have waited until I didn't have to have a pre-existing condition, well, I could have just waited until my house burned down and applied for insurance and gotten the insurance companies to pay for my rebuilding of my house. So, you know, I think that you can take an example of what it looks like to have government health insurance and government health care. In some provinces, in the UK now, they are saying that they are not going to provide operations if you are obese or if you are smoking. I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's a conservative government.
No, there's
it's
some
unbelievable, you know, that you're trying to blame this on what exactly?
It is not the entire, there are certain provinces that are saying
the conservatives want to dismantle it.
And you are obese or you are smoking, that you are not allowed to have an operation. Now, I'm pretty much of a hardliner on health, so I probably would not disagree with that, which is why you actually do not want to have your health insurance or your health care decisions made by other people. And in terms of your wonderful health insurance that are happening in places like Venezuela and Canada, there's now a waiting period for abortions. I hear there's a 9-month waiting period for abortions. That would work out well.
You know, there's no debate here. It's just in this little bubble of the United States. I mean, you know, national health care is vastly superior. I mean, I know this for a fact. In countries that have national health care, they spend on average of 8-9% of their gross domestic product on health care. And for that, they live much longer than Americans do. Their lifespan is much longer. In the United States, we spend upwards of 20% on our shitty privatized health care system. And so there's really no debate about this, that even national health care is socialism is laughable. The modern national health care system was introduced by Otto von Bismarck. Juncker, you know, the one with the monocle. These are far right-wing people. You're going to have to divorce yourself from this idea that every time the state intervenes to run all or part of the economy, it suddenly makes it a socialist system. Do you seriously think that Saudi Arabia is socialist? They nationalize their oil and...
It's certainly collectivist.
You're all over the map. I mean, the point is...
protection for individual rights. It certainly thinks what is the best for the entire society. And if it's best for the entire society,
hey, it's my turn.
That women do not have the right to vote, or women are forced to dress in a certain way, and that's fine, because we don't have rights as individuals.
You asked her question. Yeah. She answered. Go ahead.
No, and you know, Alexander Hamilton, that great communist. You know, in our Constitution, the largest industry in the country was the Postal Service. It was a nationalized industry. You seriously think that Madison and Hamilton and the guys that drafted the Constitution were socialists? I mean, this building, I mean, is this a communist plot because it was built by the government? And when we walk out here and we drive on the streets, those are government produced. Is that a socialist thing there? Or the very fact that, you know, you go home and you turn on your electricity? Boy, that's a communist action if ever I thought of one. I mean, look how much government infrastructure we all rely on it, and the one that relies on it the most is the business class. So they're full of shit when they start talking about they don't believe in the government intervention. I mean, everything in this valley, from flood control to transportation to education to fire to police, is paid for by the government because those stock jobbers on Wall Street wanted that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how well that worked. Having had some experience with the vaunted fire service.
No, you're going to pick on a fireman? I wouldn't do that.
Well, hopefully my backup here is the sheriff and serviceman who lives down the street. But we had, come this Thanksgiving, don't want to talk about natural disasters or man-made disasters, a fire in Malibu that wiped out 55 homes. What caused that fire other than arson? We had a wonderful government project at the bottom of the road that had been going on for 4 years in order to save the stupid steelhead trout and build these bridges, and we couldn't get people in and out. The firemen couldn't get in and out.
And then after I lost everything and I had to go back and try to rely on government, what did they do? Nothing. They just bumped into each other. They had all this kind of aid. And any time that I tried to spend any time trying to get help from the government was time wasted that I could have been spending trying to help myself. So I would just say that all of these things that you're talking about, if you want to go home and look and see really what is, benefiting you in your own home, yeah, you've got electricity. But how about every single other thing in your home? How about the things that
Water.
you're wearing on your back? Thank you.
Trash
government.
collection?
Thank you.
No, but the water in our homes is provided by the government programs that stole all that water from the
That's
Valley.
great.
We all know. But so you're saying we should have a privatized fire system?
Absolutely.
You know what that was like when they had that?
Yes, I do.
It was dueling fire departments, and they would intentionally set fires on houses and then go to the next door neighbor and say, I'll put yours out only if you give me money. That's a terrible way of doing it. That's why they have the government-run fire departments. There's a very good reason for it, and it's the business class that wants that. It's not some communist that granola munching Birkenstocks.
All has private fire.
That makes no sense at all. A privatized fire
That's
system?
because we've had experience with fires, and we know what it's like to have to rely on government services. So forget about it.
This is not a serious proposal, to say that you're going to privatize the fire service.
Let's jump over.
Doing it anyway.
We have a couple final questions.
Just like one more question.
One more
from the
question
audience.
for both, and then we'll move over to questions from the audience. Dr. Powelson, you ran for the Green Party. Is the Green Party?
And then I ran from the Green Party.
Is this a party that it has a platform for millennials?
None that I can see. No, they were okay. They're just, I don't know what to say about them. I mean, I ran twice, and the biggest opponents that I had during the race were other members of the Green Party. They're constantly trying to tell me what to do. There's some good people in the Green Party. But when I agreed to run for the Green Party, I said, I will do it under the condition that you don't tell me what to say or do. And then that's what they tried to do. So I don't think they're a serious party in the sense that, and I mean this with members of the Green Party that are close friends of mine, but any party that is not serious about taking power is not a serious party. And the Green Party is a party that's part of the loyal opposition that goes, well, if we can just try and get them to agree and have consensus, and I'm about, like the Democrat and the Republican, taking power. I was in Florida when that whole brouhaha with the Gore Bush thing, the Gore GW thing, and I'll never forget that the Democrats are going, let the process work itself out, and let's do the county, and it was, what was his name, the text that I'm drawing a blank, was it Schultz, who was
James Baker.
James Baker. I'll never forget, we were looking at the television, and he stared at the camera and he said, it is time to stop this recount. Like, just absolutely, he doesn't care that Bush lost the popular vote in Florida. He doesn't care about the legal niceties. It's time to stop the vote. And I remember all of my lefty friends were like going, oh, I hate that guy, and I thought to myself, I wish we had a guy like that on our side, because this is serious business, and we don't have anybody on the left that really wants to seize power, to really grab the bull by the horns. We could do it. California's a liberal, Los Angeles is a very liberal city. It's very left. It's very pro-union and all that kind of stuff. But we listen to the bullshit artists in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and then sometimes people get disgusted and they run to the Greens. So that's where we're at now.
Thank you for your time. Okay, following question goes to you.
These guys do want power. As much as I disagree with them, I have respect for the Republicans because they want power and they expect it and they demand it. And my hat is off to you for that.
I'm actually a libertarian, and I vote for the libertarian.
So,
you're a libertarian that wants to smoke pot.
Thank you for your time, man.
Taxation is death.
I'm a libertarian that relies on the power of my own mind, and I can't be clouded by.
So is this the same question? Does that have a platform that millennials can trust and can follow?
Green Party?
No, the Libertarian Party.
I like, it's green, I like that, it's the color of money, so that's good. Absolutely, I think we've got to do a little bit better than, Gary Johnson and Bill Weld next time. And I know that the whole, marijuana and drug legalization is a big issue, but I think that to make that a priority, one of the things that I'd love to hear Dr. Powelson's
perspective on this, because he has somebody who has some perspective on Occupy Wall Street. I just had experience walking by it, but also just looking at it from a social science point of view. And thinking of, at the time, it started when there was a lot of public sympathy. I think at the time when it started, there was a lot of sympathy for Occupy Wall Street. And why it is that it lost that. And part of it is because I think that they were extreme, that they weren't looking to kind of seek and build coalitions, and they also kind of niched down on this one particular mode of peaceful protest, which was occupation. And if you were going to be doing occupation, the only seeming requirement was to have no occupation, so that kind of narrowed it down. And so I think they maybe failed to moderate and failed to find coalitions, and I think that's something that the Libertarian Party also has done, because they had a moment, you know, the New York Times was talking about the Libertarian moment, and then they lost it, and then the Republican Party has gone really in the opposite direction.
The fate of,
We're gonna.
Before we open it up for questions, I want to add one more question that I think is going to prompt a lot of questions in the audience, in just 1 minute each, if you guys could. It was socialism, I'll change it to communism. Between capitalism and communism, which is most morally sound and why? And so,
well, the answer is simple. I mean, capitalism is driven
1 minute.
by profit. Therefore, if it's profitable to sell crack cocaine to school kids, there's nothing in a capitalist structure that would prevent them from doing that. Well, would it? And capitalism is immoral, it's amoral. On the other hand, communism is where the majority of society democratically runs the economy. We have examples of this, what happened in Russia. And what did they do when workers and peasants took over? They granted full legal rights to women. They abolished the laws against homosexuality. They signed peace treaties. It's not within the interests. I mean, that's what Marx would say. It's within the interest of capitalists to maximize profit, and if it means killing people, if it means polluting, if it means starvation, that's fine. But it's within the interest of working class people to take over the economy and run it in a more humane fashion. I really believe that we can do this. It's not naive. There are other examples where workers have taken over, all are part of the economy. And what do they do every time? They organize a council and they say, okay, what do you think? And it starts getting run democratically. Our economy is run like a brutal dictatorship. Decisions about production and distribution are made in secret. And if a capitalist thinks they're going to make more money by shutting down an auto plant in Michigan, even if it throws the entire community out of work and thrust them into wreck and ruin, they don't care, because they're going to rebuild that factory in Phoenix. This is the difference.
Okay. America is the best and most moral country on the face of the earth. What makes America unique, what makes America unique is not our social values. What makes us unique is our respect for property rights and our free market system. That is what makes America the envy of the world. Everybody is coming here to America.
Yes.
We are not going and trying to
Because we bankrupted every other country.
Let's respect the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And it is America and capitalism that has driven reforms that respect the individual. If you are a capitalist, you are not going to make a lot of money by being a racist unless you're in the business of selling white goods and torches. You are not going to make a lot of money by discriminating against women. You are going to make money by choosing the best person for the job and having a market-driven exchange. So that said, even though everybody's trying to come here to America because America has more opportunity, even if that were not the case, even if capitalism did not work as well, it would still be morally superior because it respects the rights of the individual. That was my analogy with Saudi Arabia. You have to respect an individual's right to make choices on their own behalf.
Thank you. We'll start with a few questions from the audience. You had a question before this.
Yes.
Let's start with you, and then we'll move from this side up to the left or the other left.
Right. Questions to you, sir.
Little left.
Speak as loud as you can, please.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
For the recording.
Oh yeah, the mic.
Yeah, let's use it.
All right. Thank you for coming, sir. I appreciate it. My first question to you is: have you ever taught or actually experienced firsthand what it's like to live under communism?
Well, I lived in Russia for a year, but it wasn't communist. But just so we get the terminology straight, all right? There have been very few examples in human history where the working class actually took over, all right? Now, I'm a historian, so, 200 years is nothing. Communism is in its infancy, right? But we can say that about capitalism. You could find examples of capitalism in the most ancient of societies, but it does not become the dominant economic system until the
Let him
60s.
say, let him finish his question.
Right. Sir, I'm asking you whether you live under communism.
No, because there's
So
no
you
communist.
haven't-
There's no communist country in the world today. So how could
Well,
I?
you're looking at the guy who lived in Vietnam for 19 years.
It's not a communist country.
It's not a communist
No,
country.
it's not a
Oh,
communist
that's
country.
wonderful. Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Did the workers run the economy in Vietnam?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
You answered my question.
Sir,
You answered
don't
my
interrupt
question.
me, sir. Okay, so let me tell you one thing is clear. I lived in Vietnam for 19 years, came here in 2012. So what you say was true earlier about the tax. Yes, tax is low in Vietnam. That's why business is flowing. But over there, our condition of living suck, really, because they have all the tax, and then they say, oh, they're gonna fix the road, they're gonna build a bridge. Well, the bridge collapsed 2 years after that. They said they're gonna build like